Finally, continuing on from Ku's story part 2, unfortunately, Ku damaged her metabolism from too much exercising and too much dieting. I last left off the story with Ku weighing in at 147 pounds, eating an average of about 1,600 calories, working out 5 times a week with very intense workout sessions, weightlifting, cardio classes, and her own cardio sessions. Hi, this is Mimi. Today I'm going to share the 7 pieces of advice that I gave Ku and her success. Here's a quick recap from my last video. For the amount of calories that she was eating for her body weight, her activity, and the amount of time that she's been dieting with no progress in body weight loss and no progress in body fat loss, it was very clear that for her specific situation, her metabolism slowed down significantly. Her metabolism adjusted to the amount of calories that she was eating and her activity level. She was in a negative energy balance, and I could just imagine how stressed her body must have been feeling and how that cortisol also negatively impacted her fat loss efforts. Her first step was to fix her metabolism and get it back to normal before she can even start to think about weight loss. She understood that this was a process, and she did very well. Here's someone who would hardly ever eat over 2,000 calories because she's afraid she'd gain fat. Very common fare, especially among females. And yet, after eating 600 calories more, we're talking an average of 2,300 calories, and in her words, doing even less cardio, she lost her first pound. And to increase her metabolism, one thing that Ku needed to do was to eat more. But since her metabolism was much slower than it should have been, she had to increase her calories slowly, otherwise she would have just gained a lot of weight. I'm talking about the concept of reverse dieting, which you may have heard before. So Ku had to slowly increase her calories weekly to rev her metabolism and minimize fat gain. Now, this is something that should be done at the end of any diet, regardless of where your metabolism is. Another approach that has worked for people who've had metabolism issues is to just stop being so meticulous with what you're eating and counting every damn thing, and just eat based on your appetite. AKA, just eat normally. But since Ku was so detailed in what she ate, I was afraid that she wasn't going to be so in tune with what her body actually needed. So we took a very calculated approach to increasing her calories and looking at her macronutrient breakdown. So how long does it take to get a better metabolism? It could take 4 to 6 weeks, but typically it takes just about the same amount of time that you dieted for. In Ku's case, this was almost 3 months. After figuring out the increase in her calories, we looked at her amounts of protein, carbs, and fats based on her body type. Ku had an endomorphic type of body, which is generally associated with a lot of natural strength. They're naturally broader and thicker, and unfortunately, they tend to have a very poor tolerance with carbs. So for her body type, she was better off with eating lower carbs, higher protein, and a moderate amount of fat. Our bodies are great at adapting itself to what we do to it. So after Ku betters her metabolism, she could technically increase her carbs very slowly to get her body to be more friendlier to accepting more carbs. But that is a totally different topic. The type of foods you eat do matter. So eating clean foods, non-processed foods, more wholesome foods would help Ku's progress. And she was eating 70% clean, 30% not, so it really wasn't that bad. Timing of carbs. Carbs spike insulin the most, and that does not put you in a hormonal state that favors fat loss, so Ku had to aim to keep her insulin levels low for the majority of the day. So for her body type, the best time to eat starchy carbs would be only post-workout. Amount of meals. Ku ate about 5 to 6 meals a day, which was a little bit of a pain to prepare. Newsflash, eating every 2.5 to 3 hours to rev your metabolism is a myth. You can eat as many meals as you want or as little meals as you want in a day, as long as it fits within your calories and your plan. So eating 3 meals a day is totally fine if that's what fits your lifestyle, or even 2 meals a day, which is something I typically do because I'm very busy and I like to eat larger meals. Activity. I didn't want Ku to drastically increase her calories because she did have a slower metabolism, and I was afraid that she would gain a lot of weight if she did that. Also, in terms of activity, since she's eating more, I don't want her to decrease her activities because then she would be eating more, burning less with a slow metabolism. Any adjustments for any plan should be made based on how your body actually responds. Depending on how people's bodies respond, some actually see weight loss as they increase calories. And if you do have weight gain, it shouldn't be that much because you are slowly increasing your calories. And I didn't want Koo to add any extra cardio or exercise since too much of that was what contributed to her stall and fat loss in the beginning, since it was such an overload of stress on her body. Adjustments. Again, Koo had to stop thinking about weight loss and start thinking about getting her metabolism back to normal. So disregarding what she weighs on a weekly basis and looking at it from a monthly point of view. After 3 weeks of slowly increasing her food intake, Koo did gain a little bit of weight, but she could tell that her body was getting used to eating more food and that her body was stabilizing with slower fat gain. She did end up confessing that she wasn't eating as good as she was hoping to do. She was eating a lot more sugar and desserts than she wanted, so she was eating 60% clean and 40% not. Since she was increasing her calories, she did try to keep her activity level the same, but she actually became a TRX instructor. So teaching her classes did take away from some of her workout time. So her activity went down by 1 hour of weightlifting and 1 hour of cardio. However, with an increase in food and a little less cardio in just 3 weeks, she already got a good early sign that her metabolism was getting better. She was able to burn more calories in a shorter amount of time. So she typically burned about 1,500, 1,550 calories with cardio and a long, hard weightlifting session. This time, she burned 1,900 calories in the same amount of time. It was an incredible sign for her metabolism, and she gained 1 pound a week, which in the overall scheme of things really was nothing since it could have been water weight and it was definitely not pure pounds of fat. And if she was able to eat a little cleaner and keep her activity level the same, she may not have gained that little bit of weight at all. And more positive news, her energy went up and her strength went up big time. In her 5x5s, 5 sets for 5 reps, her working squat weight went up to 275 pounds from 255. And she even got 5 reps of 315 pounds. That is way more than I can squat. And she even went up 5 pounds on her bench, hitting 150 pounds. After a total of 6 weeks, she was eating an average of about 2,350 calories, 600 calories more than when she started, and she lost her first pound. And she got complimented on how her body looks in a very positive way. She was doing even less cardio, 3 hours total a week. Her lifting was on point. She cleaned up her diet. She was eating 80% clean, and she was even adding increases in carbs, slowly 2 ounces of sweet potatoes. And she was very meticulous and consistent in keeping on track with her calories, protein, carbs, and fats. And her performance and strength at the gym was still improving, so now her bench is 160 pounds. After about 2.5 months, she ate at most 2,450 calories, and she was so excited to finally start to lean down. So I told her to eat the same amount of calories for 2 weeks in a row to help her body normalize itself at that level of calories. Then she started her weight loss eating plan by eating less. And since there was no time constraint and she wanted to do it right, she slowly decreased her calories and basically went down the same exact way that she increased her calories. She then successfully lost 5 to 6 pounds in 4 weeks, which is great progress since you can typically expect 1 pound of weight loss during a weight loss diet, and females on average lose only 2 pounds of pure fat in a month. Of course, getting your body fat checked is much more telling in terms of how much body fat you lost. So in an upcoming video, I plan to talk about how to track your progress. So Koo is well on her way to getting lean and has all the information that she needs to know and understands that a typical body transformation can take 3 to 4 months. In the overall scheme of things, Koo has been lifting for a little over a year, and in exactly 1 year, she gained 17.5 pounds of lean muscle mass, which is phenomenal because we on average gain 1 pound of muscle per month. So she is so glad that she's learned how to lift heavy. She's definitely seen changes in her strength and her body composition, which she finds unbelievable. Big congrats to Koo for going through so much on her fitness journeys, for her dedication, for her results, and being such an inspiring example for others. On a final note, I just want to say that Koo's situation is not the norm, so I don't want everyone to think that you messed up your metabolism and you need to eat more. Please consult with a professional before you jump to any conclusions. And feel free to check out Koo's story part 1 and 2 to learn more. Also, check out my diet and nutrition videos playlist, and if you think you need detailed step-by-step information on how to lose weight, check out my DIY eating plan for weight loss trailer from my Eat Not Diet website. In the meantime, please click subscribe, stay tuned, check out my other videos by clicking on these links here, or explore my playlist. And feel free to follow me on Twitter at Eat Not Diet, or connect with me on Instagram or Facebook at Mimi Bonny. Thanks for watching.